Welcome, race fans, to another edition of Rivalz Race Chat. I am Adam Ross, and I've been promoted for 1 week to host of the show. Joining me tonight, Travis Cunningham and Clinton Geoffrey. Clinton, we'll start with you. We weren't sure about your connection this week, so we brought in a ringer in case things go sideways, but I hope you're enjoying your vacation.
Yeah, I got a few days up north and, come up with the family and chill out and enjoy it. It's nice to sit by the pool for a few days.
Oh. Is that Clint that just broke up, or was that me, Travis?
I was wondering if it was me, but I'm thinking it might be Clint now. Yeah.
And Travis, that is why you are here. Not that we don't want you here anyhow, but we needed a wingman, and who better to have than someone who appreciates the dirt and the asphalt and has done it all behind the wheel. We appreciate you coming on, especially on short notice, and appreciate you wearing the uniform.
Yeah, thanks. Got this back when I worked for you guys at Humberstone, and I was feeling like I was impeding for a minute there, but then as soon as Clint had them connection issues right away, I don't feel like I'm impeding quite as much now, but I wish I was where Clint's at right now, that's for sure. It looks peaceful there.
It does look
Very
pretty
peaceful.
nice.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. So we have a lot to talk about this week. Big shows at Delaware Speedway, and who would have believed they would have got both days of racing in at Delaware? Quick Superstocks, the APC Spectra Premium 100, some really good racing. And I think it would have been excellent even if two of the top three finishers hadn't been put to the back early. Clinton, what's your take on that overall?
You know, the whole Delaware thing, I mean, when you take the APC series back a few weeks, Peterborough, all of that, I know the drivers may not like it or some have been frustrated by it, but for us as broadcasters and as fans, it seems like every caution they're shuffling the order. It's exciting as hell. So whatever bugs the teams aren't liking or loving about it, from a fan perspective, I don't see how you can hate it. And I think you said it best in the wrap up, on our show Saturday night when you and Jamie were winding things down, where you said, it was good that JR and Jake, the two drivers that had problems with the cone, got sent to the back, didn't get wrecked by somebody else leaking down oil on the track before and they go into the wall and have a bad night. They're both able to capitalize. I mean, how can you, as a promoter, how can you get better drama than that, to send your two best cowboys to the back and watch them gallop up through the field? It was great.
It was definitely good TV. Travis, I know you're a fan of all racing. Do you keep up with those series? Do you spend much time watching pavement racing these days?
The APC series, for sure. Definitely watch all the races. Even if I miss it, I'll go back and rewatch. And yeah, I was watching Saturday Night Live. And as soon as I saw those two go to the back, like as a driver and as a team member, I was like, oh my God, talk about some cone drama. Like I knew they'd both, the way they are, they'd both be out of it, but they kept their cool so good. And I just had this feeling that they were both going to be in the top three afterwards. And little bias, I know Jake Sheridan the best out of those two, no doubt about it. So I was pumped to see him win for sure.
If I could jump in here, Adam, for a second, the other thing that, these same drivers have been bitching about how the cone rule was administered. I mean, we saw Trayton Lapsovich pick a lane, go to a different lane, maybe did get the penalty, didn't get the penalty at Peterborough that everybody was squawking about. They were hard on the penalties this week. There's no doubt. It's like a sprint cars, Travis. Jake hit the cone. There's no denying that. Unfortunately for him, when we have 7 different angles to see it, it's we had everything but a camera on the cone. It made it pretty obvious who the problem was. But I think, Adam, the officials came down hard on it. They're trying to work it out. But how can you not say it's exciting as hell these last few races we've seen? I think it's brought a whole new level of drama to the series. And as a fan, as a broadcaster, I love it.
So
I think it's funny you say that. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just because I was talking with Doug Leonard after the race. And I personally at Ash Week, and I think we need a cone. And like maybe even a camera on it so we can police, just like you said, people, because on Friday night someone did do that thing where they switch back on the back chute, and I think
I don't disagree
at us weekend as well.
You got it this week.
It's without a physical mark, it's hard to police. So I dug a little bit deeper into that. What's the issue? Why are guys like JR and Jake having trouble with this rule? So it's not just that they don't like the rule, it's the execution of it, it's the way it's officiated, but it goes back to the drivers' meetings. So in the APC series, they've adopted a style of drivers' meeting that is similar to the NASCAR Pinty series, where a lot of it is kind of automated. It's checking off boxes of things that they have to say. They're struggling with the format of the drivers' meeting. So things that are affecting them in the race are starting at 10 o'clock in the morning when they're gathered with the officials, when they need to be asking these questions. So I'm not going to say it's the officials' fault, but there is a communication issue there where they don't understand that you don't hit the cone and then make your choice. The cone is your choice. So whatever side you're on of the cone, when you arrive at the cone is where you're going to restart from. And there seems to be some confusion. So I'm glad you listened to that story. You let me get up on my soapbox. But yeah, let's bring in our first guest first, because it's always awesome when he shows up, and he's here waiting for us to bring him on. The winner from Friday night's 360 sprint car race at Ohsweken Speedway in spectacular fashion. Dylan Westbrook, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you guys?
We're good, man. We're good. What is it like catching up to someone and having to do battle with someone? You don't know much about Mike Bowman or how he races. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, like when I was gone, he was kind of coming up. I don't really know that much about him. Just know that Friday is probably one of the most fun races I've had in quite a long time. It was great sliding each other back and forth, and just real exciting race.
How quickly does that build confidence? Sorry, Clinton. How quickly does that build confidence that you can go toe to toe with someone and trust that, you know, they've got at least enough respect that it worked last Friday, so maybe it'll work next time you're alongside them?
Yeah, it means a lot just knowing that you can go right side by side with those guys. Don't really have to worry about them like running into you or running you dirty or anything like that. Like, I think that's as close as you can get without really touching is what we were doing last Friday. So just, yeah, really cool race. Like, he was more kind of favored in the bottom. I was on the top, but even he started moving around, had a bunch of slide jobs, and it was just a really cool race to be in, and even just to watch it after. It's really exciting. I've watched it probably 4 times now. Just a lot of fun for a race again.
You know, Dylan, you know, for someone new like Mike coming in, when you come back and you don't know a lot of these guys, that's got to be wild. But let's talk about the track. It seemed like it really came back to play where we needed it, where it had been struggling for the last few weeks. Is it back to where it should be, or do we still have work to do?
No, I think that's it's great how it is now. Like before, like had those odd bumps and everything. Like there's still just a little bit of one like going into like middle of turn 1, but it's kind of always there. It seems like I think there's like a spring or something that runs under the tracks there, so there's not much you can do there. But it's great. Like we're seeing some of the fastest lap times ever, and then it still slicks off later on. It's a good race. Like we're throwing slide drop every corner, almost every lap there. It's just I think it makes it a lot of fun for the fans watching and for the racers. Like you don't have to be just set on running the top the whole time. You guy like Mike, he's running the bottom. I'm giving it all as I can on the top, and we're pretty much the same speed throwing slide jobs back and forth every lap.
Travis,
I thought
it was perfect. Yeah, I thought it was perfect too. What I want to talk about, you've come back racing a lot around home now. What would you say was the number one thing you learned racing on the road for those few years where you were up and down the road nonstop?
I think you just adapting to all the different tracks. Like around here, like kind of just get used to like Ohsweken, Brighton, Merrittville, Humberstone. Like you only got like say 5 tracks. So, and I mean, other than like say Merrittville and Humberstone, then they kind of all around say the same size, kind of somewhat similar. So then track conditions are somewhat the same too, where you go down to the States and it's completely different. One track, it'll build a 2-foot tall curb or cushion. You got to go on that. Then the next night for the speed week, say you're on a bone slick track. So you really got to learn to adapt. And then most of those places, that was the first time I've ever been there too. So I'm going out, never been there and trying to qualify and stuff. So I think it just makes you adapt a lot faster to track condition. Like we're even like say Oswego now, we're slick and rough one week to now it stays smooth, and just I think just adapt a lot faster than say just a weekly guy where he's kind of gets set in his own say ways where the track's kind of the same weekly.
And then to bounce off that, do you think like us as like I call us the Oshweekend posse, do you think like we have gotten stronger? Because like you could rip off like 6-7 in a row before you left, and then now it's your first win of the year, even though you were going to win opening night until you broke. But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I think the competition got a lot better. I know like before, like it seemed like some nights I'd just almost win just because I'd run up on the top, say higher and harder than other people. Where like now it seems like there's a bunch of guys they'll run up there just as hard as anyone. I mean, even Mike, like he was more on the bottom the other week, but he's just as fast as like. Just seems like everyone just kind of stepped up their game a lot, like while I was gone, and coming back, it makes it really cool now. Like now, I feel like I could race like those guys go anywhere and be competitive.
That means a lot for them, I'm sure, to hear you say that too, Dylan. In the broadcast of the race, did we catch you bouncing off the wall in turn 4? I can't remember if I saw it on the screen or if I saw it out the window.
Oh yeah, there's one time we kind of bounced off the wall, scratched up my mud covers a little bit.
And I mean, there's brushing up against something, and then there's hitting something. In my opinion, you hit that wall. Like, does your heart rate spike in a moment like that, or is that just the cost of doing business up on the top?
Oh no, after you top the wall like that, you go in the next corner like, well, hopefully my didn't punch a little hole in my tire. Hopefully it's a little hole in there. Hopefully I didn't knock the ladder out. You're just kind of hoping for the best when you first go into the corner after, and then it takes a lap to kind of build your nerve back up, saying, all right, didn't break anything. Keep on running it hard.
Dylan, my
Man.
question for you would be, when we saw you come on the scene, you were pretty much, late teenager, wonder kid, comes out, starts winning races. We see you go on the road. Now you come back, you're starting a business of your own, getting older, trying to have to mature up a bit and not just be a racing kid chasing a dream. How's that changed, your outset on life and maybe just where you're dealing with your racing program now? And maybe tell us a bit about the reason why you decided to come back off the road.
Like it was kind of like just growing up, like you said, like started doing really good, win a bunch of races. Kind of always a goal, like to go down the road and do that for a living, and ended up doing that. Had a ton of fun doing it. Had kind of great opportunities the whole time, but yeah, just it's a long time being away from home. Especially I kind of did it seem like the worst years I could when COVID was going on. I was literally stuck down there for I forget what the longest I was. I want to say like 8 months or something. I was stuck in the States, never got to see family or anything like that. So that was probably the hardest part. But then even now, like if I was to go do it, still gone a lot. I figured if I'm going to do it, I want to keep on going further with it. And that just keeps on me. I'm going to be home, away from home longer and longer. Like if I was to do like, say, the Outlaw Tour eventually, I'd be gone like almost all year. Say, hope for a rain out maybe once or twice to fly back home. That's about it. So, I mean, a lot of fun, wouldn't change it at all, but just kind of miss being back home with friends, family, and yeah, just kind of like I think it's kind of the best option now. Like I can get to race a couple times a week, get back home, see all my friends, family, start a business up. So yeah, it's kind of. I mean, I wouldn't really change it at all now. Like got to do it and then kind of got the best of both worlds.
Dylan, there's drivers historically who have made legendary careers. Say it's Freddie Raymer, staying fairly close to home. Is that Billy Pouch? They can travel, they can go a lot of different places, but they built their legend within 100 miles of where they're at. Is that where you see yourself moving forward, or do you still think a World of Outlaws full-time deal might be in the cards for you?
I mean, I even like Anthony Macri, I was racing against him one night. So like, well, I'd want to do like the Outlaws Tour once just to do it, but he says same thing. He can race around home, good money doing it around home, and he gets to be in his bed like pretty much every night, unless he just goes out on like weekend or something and travels for a bit. And that's kind of where I am. If I had the perfect opportunity, maybe go out, say, do the Outlaw Tour once, but I know like that's not something you can just go and jump into and win it, where I'd want to almost do it, say, a couple of years and try to actually be very competitive with it. So it's not just something you can just jump in 1 year, do it, and quit. So I don't know. I'm kind of content where I am now, racing around home. Like, still, whenever I have an off race, I'd go out to the States and do some here and there, but I kind of like where I'm at right now.
You got
We
to
do too.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Travis.
I was just going to talk about, you got to do some 410 racing while you're out on the road. And is the difference between a 360 and a 410 kind of like a difference between a crate and a 360, but like more on steroids? Or like what would you say driving a 410 is more like in the difference?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say about the same, going from a crate to a 360 to a 360 to a crate. It's I mean, that handles somewhat the same, but then with different tires, more horsepower, it's a lot to adjust to. And yeah, it's we did a little bit there. We had some decent runs like in Florida and stuff, but it's a lot of learning, especially to switch just from tires. Like, those guys are out there doing it multiple times a week, and we're kind of came in, try to do it here a couple times a weekend. So I mean, eventually I think we would have got it, but it just takes a lot of time to adjust to it and adapt, figure out all the little things that they get to do multiple times a week, and we're trying to do it just every once in a while.
Clinton, have you got anything more for Dylan?
Last one I got for Dylan before I bring on Jake Sheridan would be Dylan. Like, you were one of the first drivers to get into the crate series when it first started. What do you think of how it's blossomed right across the provinces and starting to trickle into the States? The crate program has been pretty exciting to see growth. What's your thoughts as one of the guys who was in it in the early days?
I think it's probably the best thing that could ever happen, really. Like, ever since the crates happened, you've seen that grow like crazy, and now you see a bunch of the guys coming out from the crates moving up to the 360s. So it's doing pretty much exactly what everyone wanted to. Like, it's the crate class is growing like crazy. Every year you see guys jump up from that into the 360s, because that for a bit there, 360s, it was almost getting a little low on cars. But ever since the crate started, it's been great. Like, full field of cars every night, and it seems like every year there's more and more people moving up and more people getting into the crates.
Yeah, right on.
Well said, man. And that's what it's all about. So, Dylan, we thank you for coming on. We thank you for setting the bar of excellence at Ohsweken and then coming back to make sure people can still jump over it. So we look forward to seeing you at the races.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Dylan Westbrook, I mean, Clinton and Travis, I almost feel a little bit bad because Travis is here competing against Dylan week in and week out. But I think this is a growing legend. I mean, being able to race with Dylan Westbrook, I think, will be a feather in someone's cap. Like, he's a benchmark for success.
Yeah, I got to race with him at my dad's race. He battled me for 8th. He nipped me at the line, and like, I was stoked when I got back to the pits. Man, D-Dubs had to really try hard to get me. So yeah, exactly.
No, for sure. So, folks, before we bring on our next guest, throw out your opinions on that Chicago street race with NASCAR. And we'd love to hear what your thoughts are, because we're going to chat a little bit about that later on. And give us your opinions on, let's pick on the choose rule, the choose cone, what you think about it, and what you think its place is in regular weekly racing.
I just want to jump in here and talk to Travis quickly, like while we wait to bring Jake on. Like, Travis, I think the biggest thing the crate has, and you're a fan of all forms of racing here in Ontario, what the biggest thing for me that I still am shocked is how many people it's brought in from other disciplines, whether it be Can-Am midgets, be it the Niagara dirt guys like Bowman and now Tanner Podwinski, and then Tyler Willard out with us on Friday. I mean, and then until like just new people that expect to. For me.
Yep.
Oh, the buildup was great.
No, that's okay. I heard all of it anyways, but he's still there.
Good.
But yeah, the number one thing, like exactly like Dylan said, the way the crate guys move up now, and like now, like back in the day, you'd have a 360 rookie and he'd come from a lower division and they'd be a little squirrely to start. Now, like they start on the pole and win the heat race and stuff like that. So it's definitely been awesome like that. But like the pavement side, I think we're lucky here just because our tracks don't wear out tires. Like if we were running tracks were harder on tires, I don't know if you'd see as many of those guys switch over. You know what I mean? Just because that's the main saving compared to pavement, I think, to a crate sprint. But and they're super fun. A lot of those guys still have their Can-Am midgets and play with those as well. But yeah, if you want to try the dirt, that's definitely the way to go to bang your buck right now. No doubt about it.
Well said. Let's bring on our next guest, Jake Sheridan, second career APC late model victory. And I got to say, did it in spectacular fashion. And I thought your victory lane interview was phenomenal. You got to throw in some of the stuff that frustrated you, Jake, but your story about watching your dad hold the Canadian flag and the checkered flag and then you getting to do the same thing, that's what a victory lane interview is all about.
Yeah, man, for sure, guys. Thanks for having me here. It's pretty wild. It's just a lot of things I wanted to say. I didn't really get to get it out. It was pretty hot and wasn't really thinking 100%. It was a little emotional at the time, but just been fighting really hard for that one, really, for a long time. A lot of people say, you can want something too bad and it can hurt you. But that's the kind of reason we were there yesterday. We wanted it so bad. We worked really, really hard for a couple of years. We missed out on it. So it was really, really cool to get there and a pretty surreal moment. And to do it the way we did is just that much cooler, really.
Jake, before we get too much into the whole race itself, let's talk about that. The ambulance guys were brought up to your window right away. How hot was it in the car? Obviously, Ronnie was down there telling us to watch out for you, make sure when you stood up on the side, he made sure everybody's behind you. So what were you saying to your dad on the radio or your crew about the heat and what you were suffering with?
I think it was more a lack of what I was saying. I was having a hard time really just process normal things. Like it's the hottest I've ever been. Some things I've never really experienced before. Like the wall was getting pretty blurry there for a while, and I was hearing, I could hear Dad spotting for me, but it was kind of hard to make out. Couldn't really make out the words he was saying. It was just kind of starting to lose it. You're just kind of starting to daze off a little bit. So it was just hot, but we had it's just my fault really. Should be better prepared. I don't really bring a water bottle with me, and I don't really run a lot of cooling in that car. So it is what it is. But the motor spit out a valve cover gasket in the day, and I was kind of the only one that could get in there and try and fix it during practice. It was just so hot, and I had my fire suit on, so I jumped out and was in there all day wrenching. You're just dripping sweat since 12 o'clock in the afternoon there. So it's just a combination of the day. We work outside in the heat. I'm just making excuses now at this point. It's someone else's fault but mine. So it's just hot, man. It's just hot. It happens to everybody. It happens to a lot of people that were on the podium, and I seen them struggling on pit road. So I was hurting a little bit, but thankfully we got there. That caution went really, really long there at the end too, and that didn't help. So I didn't really get to say a whole lot. I got that helmet off pretty much just going into corner one. I was starting to do my stuff. It was just that's why I didn't say anything to my dad. That's why he was so nervous. I think I just didn't have the radio in. So once you win, though, those feelings start to kind of go away a little bit. I felt a lot better once we crossed the line.
It's a fast cure, Travis.
Oh man, I just can't believe you could the wall was blurry. Man, that's intense to know that you drove through the field with that kind of stuff going on. Maybe time for to invest in a big water bottle though for at the track. Because you looked like you were about ready to vomit. You and my mom noticed we were watching together.
I do good during the day, but it was only about right before. It was right that last caution is where it really got hot for me. Like only those last 10 laps I was fighting. Before that, you're still you're green flag and you're clicking laps by, and it's a bit of a mental game too. Laps are going by. You're getting closer to the end. You're getting closer. There's lots of fresh air in the helmet blowers. You're moving. There's air coming in the car. You can put your hand out the window. Like we had a good enough lead there for a bit. I can run my hand out the window on a couple straightaways and get some air in, and that kind of stuff makes a big difference. But when you're sitting under caution for 25 laps and you got no fresh air coming in, and mentally you're not getting any closer at the end, that's harder.
No, and you make a great point there. I want to go back to you getting put to the back of the field, and you can talk about the choose rule if you like. I'm more interested in your state of mind at that point in the race. Did you have any thought that you could come back and contend for a win? What are your emotions like at that point?
I about lap 10, come on, I think I said we got a really, really good race car today, and I was confident. I was surprised. Actually, my dad mentioned it too afterwards. Like I really wasn't that worked up. I was upset that we ended up going back there. I guess I was upset myself. I hit it, but here it is. And you see, I'd love to go through that there too. That what happened, but it I didn't even
Oh,
notice that
talk us through it.
I didn't even notice that Joe got a piece of it there too. No, but I was not worried when I went back there. I thought, well, we're here now, and I made my bet. I better lay in it and get up to another podium and not kill too many points. Be great. But thankfully, we had that long green flag run, and you just start clicking them off, man. You just get yourself you just gotta keep yourself in a decent mind frame. And once we started passing a couple of cars, you're like, once you can see the front, I'm like, oh, I'm in 10th, but I can see the front. It wouldn't take much to happen now. We can be there. So, no, it was an interesting view of that replay. It's just what happens there is, we didn't how we were explained about what was going on, how it was explained to us wasn't exactly how I interpreted what happened at the time. I wasn't really ready for the cone to be so low on the track, and it sounds silly unless you're in it, but it's really hard to see of that left side A-pillar. And I sit pretty low in that car. So we're coming down here right now, and I'm thinking the cone is 2 lanes up higher than that. And I see the 84. I know coming to that cone, the 84 is going to pick the bottom. I can see the 84 car and the 17. I don't know why that made sense for me to go down there. And I see him I go up it, and you see 2 cars split, and all of a sudden, oh, there's a cone. Like there's the cone down there, and I'm thinking, I understood we had to split the cone. I had to pick the bottom side of the cone, and by the time I really realized what was going on, I see it. I'm behind the 84. I'm laying back a little bit. On the 84, I'm thinking he's going to go below that cone. I'm thinking right there, the 84 is picking the inside of the cone where he's at. So I'm thinking the cone's on to his outside, and it's a whole nother lane lower than him. So just a misinterpretation on my part. I seen it. I panicked to go down below it right away, and because I wanted the bomb behind the 84 car. So I think him and I both we were the first people to have to figure it out, right? That was the first time the cone was there, and we were forced to find out right away. So we made a great example for everybody else. Everybody learned really quick off of us, and we paid the price, but it looked cool.
I want to ask you, now, first off, I think they're going to move the cone much higher on the racetrack next time. Listening into some conversation up there, but how motivating was it to have JR back there with you? You've got this natural rivalry, and
I love this comment section.
How important was the battles? Yeah, how important were those battles on restarts?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, look at these comments. I'm trying to pay attention to read at the same time. Mr. Cone, that's the funniest thing I've heard in a long time. That interview was awesome. But no, it's, I'm back there. I'm thinking, my thinking, every time I go to the back with Jared Fitzpatrick or I'm starting behind him, I think this is perfect. We can just follow him. If I got good enough car to stick with him, he'll make some holes, and that's what he does best. And he's done it for a long time. He knows how to move people out of the way and when to go, and hopefully he's on the same tire plan as me. So no, I thought this would be great. We'll see what we can do. And I wasn't too worried by a rivalry standpoint. I felt like we had a good enough car. If we kept our head on straight, that it was going to work out for us in the long run. So I gave it to him. He seemed like he wanted to go. So I was on the top, and I tucked in behind him, and we just couldn't really get too far. So I ended up getting I had a really, really good run on the bottom of 3 and 4 all day long. And it just kind of worked out in traffic and timing. That when we got him there, I can't remember if it was on a restart and he got bunched up, or if I passed him just in traffic. I can't remember, but it was exciting, and it worked out that I managed to realize where I had my abilities were at the beginning of the race. I realized that I had a really good run on the bottom of 3 and 4 early enough that I still left myself enough time to get through there, and I could kind of save my right rear tire on exit. So it just really, really worked out well in our favor that way. We learned that all at the right time, and JR and I were good. We came through the pack pretty hard together. So the choose rule sure through a different aspect in us coming through the pack. We got split up a couple times top and bottom, and it's a tough decision. It's always a tough decision when you got, maybe a car you don't want to be behind in both lanes. Where do you go? And that's where it makes it tough to come from the back to the front in this setting. But it sure was exciting to watch. I've watched the race probably 2 or 3 times, and it was an exciting day.
It was a hell of a show. Clint?
Jake, I got 2 parts for you. First off, are you a fan of the choose rule for the series? I mean, it seems to bring a lot of excitement. It shuffles the deck every caution. It may not be a pure speed thing, but from an entertainment value, it's great. And my other question is, why the hell are you guys up everybody's ass coming to this thing? The last 3 races, we've seen everybody on each other's bumper. You can hang back 4 car lengths. Why aren't you giving yourself as much time? I'm not picking on you. I'm just, as a fan, wondering, why are you guys all over each other when there's no real minimum speed limit? I'd be hanging back and counting as many as I could till they're yelling at me on the one way.
I'm going to answer your second part first, is because we've played this game before, and you screw around and you screw around, and then make a rule about it, and then you're screwed, and you got to stay within a certain thing. So if you watch that replay again, I'm laying back about 7 car lengths there from JR, and that was probably the closest I went all day long. Yeah, see, I'm hanging back here, but that's the closest I've been. That's the closest I've been almost all day, because I was so confident in my lane. There's only 2 cars in front of me. At Peterborough, I couldn't believe they didn't yell at me, because I was running 10th at the time, and I was hanging back like 10, 12, like in the middle 3 and 4. When I was 5th, I was hanging back just because, it is hard for your spotter to count. Like we're still in the middle of figuring out a system. Like, do I want to hear how many pick the bottom? Do I want to hear 1, 2 in the bottom, 1, 2, 4 in the bottom, or do I want to hear numbers in the top, or do I want to hear 1 bottom, 1 top, 2 bottom, 1 top? We're still trying to figure out the quickest way for me to process exactly how to choose it, how to handle the choose rule. And it's a difficult thing. I haven't done it in a long time. I've been fortunate enough to do it in legend cars, but it's been a long time, and we didn't have spotters. So it's tough. I like the hanging back thing, but I don't want to make it too obvious, because the world can hear it now. So that's why I don't want to make it too obvious for them to make a rule against it. So maybe they will now. But no, I think if everyone's doing it respectfully and not leaving 20 car lengths per car, and we're catching lap traffic on the pace up, I don't see why there should be a rule against that. So that's just how it works, especially for the first year. So. And then I will go back. I was going to just off it and ignore your first question, but I will go back since we're here now. I don't think it matters how I feel about it. I choose, there's a really great saying back in the day that I've heard a couple times, and, if you get wrecked with somebody, it's 50% your fault because you agree to race with them. Well, I agree to race in this series every single weekend, and I still think the series is greater than a good or bad decision on the restart. So I wouldn't want to bring any negativity into this interview. But I think what they got is their vision is for the greater of the sport, and I really hope that's what they get out of it.
So I'm gonna step in here, because if you saw JR
Was that good, Clinton? Was that good?
Very political. I can hear the message.
JR put an apology about his interview. I'm sorry, I might have spoke too soon. I put a comment on there that got a little bit of love, because we want the emotional response, because that has more value, Jake. The answer you just gave was absolutely articulate. You said it so well. And it's like, that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear the Jake that gets out of the car, and you can still see the frustration in his eyes, so you know what he's about to tell you is the truth, or the excitement in your eyes. But that perfectly illustrates you were very well spoken there, and that's a great answer to the question. I'd still rather ask you right after you get penalized by the choose rule, or right after you really benefit from it, because it would be gold. Do you see the difference?
Yeah, and you know what? The interview right after the race gets you grumpy text messages from the race director. So this is a great response, and I'm very happy with what I've just done.
Oh my God.
There you go. That makes sense. Travis, what more do you have for Jake?
I just want to say, after his last time on here, I sent him a thing saying good interview, but I called him Jake Biederman, because Biederman and Hanley, both of them would be mean. Just Biederman would tell you about it, whereas Hanley, you know what I mean? He wouldn't be quite as vocal about it, but I loved his last interview, to be fair. But I want to go, what I noticed about the victory lane was your little bro checking the tire pressures while everyone else was in super victory mode. And to just talk about the Sheridan family. that story you told in Victory Lane was awesome. I didn't know that about Rocket. And then just tell us what it's like being Rocket's son and Nick's brother. He's your little crew chief. I love that.
I'm really happy you brought this up because I was going to have to bring in here at some point. But Nicky is, we were just talking about this actually at dinner. It is so cool to see the young people that we've all got. I'm the oldest one other than my dad with tires and spotting. Other than that, the guys are working over the wall on the pit road. Mikey Verboom and I are about the same age. Everyone else is younger than us. So it's so cool to, Clinton do the interview with Nicky as the crew chief, and he's a real crew chief. Like, he really had one of the biggest roles in winning that race. Like, he's not just my little brother Nick. He's Nick Sheridan, the 52 cars crew chief, and he played a huge role in doing that deal. And it's pretty awesome for him to make his own name for himself. And I don't do things as traditional maybe sometimes as my dad did, so I'm kind of making my own name for himself. And we're all just, my dad's Ron Sheridan, I'm Jake, and Nick is Nick. Nick's not my brother, and I'm not dad's son. We're all each our own person, and it's really, really cool to do that. But it's pretty awesome to have that interview with Nicky, and he's so smart and so good with the race cars. We see it in the dirt with his SRP program going on, and he's doing a great job there working in the shop, and he's doing a great job working on our cars. I couldn't ask for anybody better to work with. We work well together, and I'm a little bit more of the grunter and mechanical guy, and he's the finesse and the fast guy. So it's really cool, and we have a really good team and a really good dynamic together on the racetrack, especially in a situation we're at on the weekend, going to the back of the front. Dad and Nick are both super good on the radio with me, and we just, Nicky was calm and Dad was calm, and Dad did a great job spotting. I wouldn't be where I'm at today without my dad and all the great things he's done for me, and he's a really good spotter, and he gets me. So he does a great job, and the things he does for us during the week is pretty special. So I couldn't ask. It wouldn't happen if we didn't have the people we did, and the fact that we're families makes it that much better.
Well, your not brother Nick just gave you kisses in the chat.
I just like seeing the comments. It's not as cool anymore.
No, but just to jump in on something, from the outside, a lot of people may not know. Your dad is a veteran guy, and a lot of dads will be down there making sure everything's going right. Your dad basically leaves you guys to your own devices in the pits. He goes up in and is a spotter, but it's great that you have this like junior six-pack of guys who are just kicking ass. And I saw the same thing about Nick. As you're working on your celebration, he's taking tire pressures, as Travis said, and writing notes for next race, which is super cool. The other thing that I took of that as a brother who races, and I got Mikey out there, was how proud he was of you. During his as we're interviewing him, he's watching you do their brother, and he goes, "Oh, look at him! That's awesome! Look at him go!" Like he was super proud of you too. So I mean, it's just super cool. I got one last question for you. Where does Mom watch the races from?
Mom was there on the weekend in Delaware, and it's really cool because she actually, I feel bad. A lot of weekends she's working. So when we go ATC racing and tour around, she works weekends. So she's super, super supportive, and she plays a huge role in this program. Obviously, not just from working on race cars point of view, but from bookkeeping and organizing the stuff that I mess up, and organizing the bills that I forget to hand in, and doing all that kind of stuff. So she looks after us and keeps us straight that way. And she looks after all the food for all the guys. Everyone comes there with fresh homemade sandwiches, and that's one of the things all the guys like about working with us. So she's a huge, huge role. She does everything, hangs out and helps out with every single aspect of it she can. And I'm really, really happy that she got to be there for this one on the weekend. It makes a big difference for us. And being close like this and being at home and her being there is pretty awesome. There's little things like that a lot of people don't get to see. So the racing community is a super family orientated deal, and there's things going through people's heads, and when they're racing and when they're victory lane and when they're making a move on a guy that you guys don't understand, maybe from looking on the outside in, there's so much going on inside these guys' heads, and that stuff like that's pretty special. So I'm actually really happy you brought that up, and it was a cool one for this weekend.
That's awesome, Jake. Really good interview. Thank you for being so open. I've only got one more thing and we'll let you go. Super tight points battle. Who does that favor? Who is the favorite given the fact that there's not one or two people battling for a title? There's 5 or 6.
Man, I don't know how you can pick right now. There's 5 of us all within 6 points? Is JR 1 point behind me or 2 points behind me? I don't know. I'm 4th, 4 points out of first. Like that's pretty crazy. Like but it's at the same time, it's a lot. Like that takes more than one race to make back. This point system is so tight. Like 1 point per position and 2 bonus points for leading if you count your leading a lap, or for winning. I mean, sorry, if you count leading a lap. That doesn't leave a lot of room to make up time, and not getting points for qualifying is confusing to me. But it makes it also makes it that much tighter. Like makes that much tighter of a battle.
Mhm.
So no, I don't know how you can say one's his favorite. The 22 car has obviously shown speed every single track we've been to this year. Like you started out the year a little rough at Sunset, we were decent, but he's been fast at Flamborough, fast at Peterborough, was fast again at Delaware. So JR is going to be a huge threat, obviously. He obviously dominated at Flamborough, and that's where we're going next. So that's great, but that kind of sucks that race isn't at the end of the year for him if he had a really close battle. So, but to save the best for last, I don't really know how you can't think of Joe Lawrence. Every track we've been to, he's either been on the podium, if not top 5. Like Peterborough, phenomenal race, racing for the lead with Steckley, who dominated all day long. Flamborough did great. Sunset drove by all of us, drove by me with 10 to go or to take my podium away from me. Like, and still on the podium at Delaware. Like, if you we had a track that was really good for us. JR had a track that was really good for him, and Danny Benedict won at his home track. That kind of stuff all really makes a lot of sense. Joe Lawrence has been out there and been on the podium every single track, and that guy is a threat. That guy is a problem. He's going to gain points every single week he goes to. So I say the 78 car has got to be one of the favorites, if not the 22. So we're just going to have to do our best just to not break. That's kind of we got to make sure no matter what happens, we got to be able to capitalize. If they wreck or they get racing or blow a tire or something breaks, we got to make sure we're there without any problems. And that's going to be our best chance at sealing something like that up. So we're going to do the best we can in the shop. And obviously the best we can on the racetrack. And if we have cars like we did this weekend, there's no reason why we can't get a couple more wins.
There you go. Jake, thanks for being on again. Great interview, man. That was fun.
Man, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Always have fun being here.
Jake Sheridan, part of the Sheridan Racing family. And Clint, that was a very well thought out response that he gave to you on a contentious issue, because, and like he says, we're in a sport where the head official of a series, the technical director, the race director, they know how to reach you personally. So there's a lot of things going on in the background privately, but the only people that they talk to publicly are the drivers. So they've got to mind their P's and Q's.
Look, a couple things on that. First off, Jake gave us a bullshit answer. I love the kid, but he was too politically correct there. I wanted to hear what he felt, whether he likes the rule or not. And to wrap that up, my opinion of it, we always look at things on paper, whether it comes to tech or procedures. I still think the right people on paper are winning. The right people are getting the right finishes. It hasn't totally screwed up everything to the point that we're having mystery winners that we can't figure out how these guys got on the podium. At the end, the right guys are still winning. We have a super tight battle. But back to that thing you just said about Jake and the director too. And I think that's how you build a good series. And I know that's one thing I really tried to do at Oshwika when I took over from the very start. I seen every other track getting burned down on social media and, guys going out and slamming us. So if Travis goes out and talks a bunch of shit about how he got screwed by Oshwika Speedway on Friday all over Facebook, you're damn right I'm going to call Travis and say, what the hell, man? You have my message. You have my number. Why wouldn't you call me first and at least let's talk about it? And then if I don't, you like what I have to say, then tell me to screw off and go to social media and we'll deal with it from there. But no, I think that's how you build a culture where everybody pulls, and we have that at Oshwika, and we're a family. Everybody knows everybody works together. Yeah, they race hard as shit, but at the end of the day, they want to help each other out. And I think that's the culture you have to breed from the top down, and that's what Alex and the guys are doing.
And well said. And to Rick McCall's points in the chat, and Rick, I love your comments because they are absolutely honest. The fairest way to restart a race is single file, leader to the front. Lead lap cars ahead of them. That is the fairest way to do it. They've changed it up over the years to make things entertaining. They, 3 single file, then double up. That's not fair. Double file restarts. The challenge with a traditional double file restart is, let's take most traditional short tracks. Let's take Flamborough Speedway. You can start on the outside of the front row at Flamborough Speedway, and you can have success. So if you're the leader, you might even choose the outside. But if you're restarting 4th at Flamborough, you're screwed. If you're restarting 4th at Peterborough, you're screwed. You shouldn't be penalized by being in the 4th position Like fifth place shouldn't be an advantage over fourth place. And I think that's what the choose rule does. It allows you to try to escape out of what might be a bad situation for yourself. And it rewards the driver for the position that they're running. And Travis, did I explain that all right? Or does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying exactly. But yeah, the thing is, like Jake said, those cars are super hard to see. And that cone is definitely way too small for what they got. And like, as long as we have the super big cones, like the No Limit series, like they put a goose on it or whatever, like they had a huge giant cone. As long as you have that and you police it, like I think it is good for the sport. And I definitely like double file restarts in the sprints, like because when we get sprung out, you get a caution, good luck. But now if you get a caution lap one, it's just like an original start.
Wow.
So you're back to that. I definitely like the double file restarts. And if the choose rule gets pulled off, it is a good thing, and especially for the fans.
But Travis, by
Clint,
pulled
is there
off,
anything-
you mean done correctly, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like we can't have cars switching.
Yeah,
Not
and
taken
look
away.
But at Ush Weekend, as we're still learning, as Travis said, we need a cone. We need to police it better. I can talk to Doug and we can fix that. I mean, this is the feedback we need. It's a learning thing. You know, I had one of the drivers come up to say, when the track's rough, we shouldn't do the choose rule. And I'm thinking on the inside, well, that's exactly why we should do the choose rule, because it was the old style double file restarts. You're stuck running through the rough stuff on the top or the bottom. At least here, you might have to give up a spot, but you could still go where you want to be in the lane you want to be. So on the dirt, I think it's a bigger advantage, but you know, I'm not out there driving the cars. So one guy who is though is Trevor Culver, who's waiting for us. We've had him on standby for a bit. So let's jump into Trevor Culver, super stock winner at Delaware. Trevor, welcome to the show. Adam, take it away.
Trevor, thanks for being here, man, and congratulations on a win at your home track.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to win the race and then happy to do these follow-up interviews after. Usually they come hand in hand, and happy to be on screen here because that means I had a good weekend.
So if I can ask, Trevor, you do, or it seems like you do fairly well with your sponsors and marketing partners with your team, because there's quite a few names on the car. How big a deal is winning a race on Canada Day weekend at your home track, which is where your sponsors are going to notice you the most? Does that give you a big boost, especially in terms of having to win them back for next year?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, part of it is, like you say, giving them the boost to have them back for next year. But to me, anytime I can win a race in front of my fans and my family and my sponsors, like, it just means so much to me. I almost find more joy in winning a race to talk to those people than I do for myself. Or like it's for my team and for my sponsors and everyone that puts all their hard work, their hard-earned money and their faith in me. For me to win is, I think, easiest way to pay them back, and I try to do that every single week.
Travis, what do you got for Trevor?
Oh man, I'm Travis Cunningham. I drive 360 sprint car. I've honestly, the first time I ever figured out who you were, I saw a picture of your car last year. And you guys, like on the super stocks now, which is like a Challenger to me back in the day when I grew up at the pavement track, they were more like Challenge. But like your car was like this going through the pits. Just talk about what it's like driving like one of those super slam down setups. Because like that, when I was going to the asphalt races, you would never see stuff like that. But nowadays, you guys drive around with the super camera, and then as soon as you get on the track, it's sealed. Talk about that kind of stuff.
It's definitely taken us a few years to get all that figured out. Years ago, we started with the heavier stuff, and then we got into the softer stuff, and we struggled for a couple years on the softer stuff because when you're in those soft spring big bar setups, it's a lot more finicky. There's a lot more fine-tuning adjustments, and there's a lot smaller window. So I think there's more advantages to running that, but there's also more room for error and more room to kind of screw that setup up. So yeah, it's definitely been an evolving deal with the springs, where you're going to have that car up a little higher because you want it to travel nice and low and get down low as soon as you get going, and you rely on those shocks to hold it down. Like I said, it's been an evolution, and to be quite honest, I struggled for a couple years with it, and some days I still don't think I have it completely figured out. And I think everyone that runs that setup, or even in the late models, they'll kind of agree to a degree that they're very hard and very finicky, and very, very, very temperamental. Last year, going into the Quick Championship night at Delaware, we were in the top 5 drivers. I'm sure you guys all remember, we were all within like 5 points of each other, and it was basically who's going to win the race. We went there, tested at Delaware on the Monday night. I made a change to the car. The thing was awesome. I'm like, okay, here's my chance. We're going to go to our home track, like you guys say, we're going to win. We're going to win this championship. And we show up for practice on the Friday night. First practice, top of the board. I'm saying to myself, trying to be confident, I'm like, I'm going to do this, right? We got a car, we got it set. This is perfect. We changed to my race tires from my practice tires. It changes a couple dynamics on the car. And with that setup being that fine-tuned, we ended up 9th in the race and 4th in championship points. And it's all just something so small and temperamental. And it's great when you get it right, but it sucks when you don't.
Yep.
Trevor, let's talk about the state of the super stocks. You know, in Ontario, we've kind of seen it ebb and flow. We've seen the tours kind of help it get through the pandemic. Then we come back. You know, is one of those things where it's an up and down year. What's your opinion of the health of it across all the tracks, home tracks, and the tour?
It's harder for me to answer that because I'm at Delaware, where Delaware has the best car count, right? Like on a regular night, we have anywhere from, I think 20 or 21 was our biggest count so far, and our lowest has been, I think, 18, maybe 17. So we've had a really healthy car count there. The Quick Super Stock Series has been pretty good as well, right? 16 to 19 cars in the first couple races. It's not quite what it was when it first started. And then some of the other tracks are struggling a little bit. I'm not sure why that is. I think the cars are definitely evolving a lot, and maybe some people are having trouble keeping up with that and the cost. It's like I said, it's hard for me to answer because I mean, I'm having a heck of a time. I think it's just as hard for me to win on a Friday night as it is in the Quick series and the traveling series, because there's such good competition at my home track at Delaware. You can't take a day off.
You know, I think that's always been the selling feature, always in the few years that Superstock series has been around, is how tight the competition is. I remarked the other night, on Saturday night rather, pretty much half of the races in the history of your series have been run caution free. You can't take a lap off. You can't take a corner off. You've got to battle the whole time. Is it mentally exhausting, Trevor, or is that part of the fun?
Yeah, it's part of the fun. It can be a little bit exhausting. It's part of the fun. I was kind of telling my friends and family and sponsors after the race the other night, I wish they had, I wish there was an onboard camera where you could see down into my helmet, because I led 47 out of 50 laps. I got out front and held on to it. But like every lap, I look in my mirror and Sean Chenwith, of all people, is behind me. So am I relaxed? Absolutely not. So I'm coming off every corner, right? Doing the best I can. And I kind of making these faces and, you know, doing this and got my tongue out and whatever. I'm doing that for most of the laps as I'm trying to put together the best corner I can, and then try and do it again in the next end of the track. And then there's like there's about 5 laps to go, and I went to take a breath and my mouth was completely dry because I haven't took a breath for the next 5 laps before that. I just, like, you are up on the wheel, whether you're back in the pack trying to get around someone or gain on someone, or whether I'm out front and I see those hungry, super talented drivers behind me. It's not taking a minute off. And it's a ton of fun. Like, would I love to win every single race of the year? Yes. Would I love to win every single race of the year? But have super, like, I mean, sorry, I guess I said that wrong. Would I love to win every single race of the year and have no competition at all? Or only win a couple, and when I win them, it is like, holy crap, I just beat so many good guys. And that's what it is. Like, last year we went winless in Delaware and the Quick series, and that sucked a lot because we won a lot of years before that. But it's not super surprising just because there's so many good cars and drivers and teams. And we were off by just a little bit last year, and it was magnified.
Clinton, Travis, do you have any more for Mr. Culver?
I'm good, Trav.
You plan on moving up to pro late at all, or going to stick with the super stocks?
I don't know. For now, I think super stocks. I raced my first year is in super stocks in 2015. I did super stock and the APC late model in the inaugural year. That was especially tough to transition into that car. I was working on both cars, racing at Delaware full time in the super stock, then jumping in the other car to race at these different tracks. And I've never raced the late model before, and it was quite a jump to do that, and the money is crazy. Right now, I'm having a ton of fun racing super stocks, and the competition is so good. I don't know if I want to make that jump to the pro late models. Sure, would I love to drive one? Yes. Would I love to trade my super stock bill for my late model bill? Probably not. And if I can keep racing and be competitive and win races in the class I'm doing, and my wife still gives me a permission slip to do that, I don't think I better test the waters anymore.
Well said.
Right on.
Trevor, thanks for coming on with us, man. Good job Friday night. I'm sorry we weren't there to see it, but we had prior engagements, but good for you for finding victory lane.
Well, thanks, guys, for the congratulations. Thanks for having me, and just thanks to you guys in G-Force TV for everything you do for racing. Without all the different people that do what they do, racing wouldn't be what it is. And that's you guys with the coverage, you guys letting fans at home sometimes see it if they can't make it to the racetrack, with the promoters at the racetrack, with the safety crew at the racetrack, with what happened on Friday night, with the tech officials, with all the series sponsors, with all my sponsors, with all the, it's such a tight-knit community. And without one of those puzzle pieces that's missing, it just wouldn't create the perfect picture that it does. And you guys are a big part of that puzzle, and thank you for everything you do. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Trevor. We'll see you at the races, man.
Thanks, guys.
So we have a few more comments or a few more topics to cover. I don't think we're going to get to them, guys, because I want to close off with the two most serious things that happened this weekend. Steve McCaw at Delaware Speedway suffering a medical episode in the car. And we want to take a moment to just acknowledge the safety crews at the racetrack, the whole system, the communication, and some of the members of other crews who are first responders by profession, who came out and were real heroes. And because of their efforts, Steve McCaw is in hospital. And the only update that we've been given is that there are signs of improvement. So that comes from an official in the APC series, but great work by a group of people in what was a very serious situation. Clinton, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think we're blessed, just like we have so much great racing around here. We have some great safety teams. I mean, I fail to see too many places we go anymore where they aren't on top with the best equipment, the best trained people. And, the biggest thing we've got there is a lot of the first responders on those crews were always race fans. And I think they get the passion, they understand, and I think that their dedication weekly adds to their professionalism. And what I mean by that is someone, a lot of the guys will know Travis by name, or they'll know his history. If he had a previous injury, like, if you get hurt, okay, watch him easy getting out of the car. We know he hurt his back last year. And I think all that adds up to a lot of trust. Travis, you're a driver who, risks your health in one of the wildest sports in motorsports. I don't think anybody watching this program would disagree that the sprints are pretty freaking wild. What are your thoughts on the safety crews we have and where you get to race with?
Yeah, first off, shout out to the one at Delaware that we're able to keep that guy alive, I guess. And because there was a couple of years ago at Airborne, I think it was Leon Gagno when they were running the dirt style modifieds. on pavement. Like, he had an episode on the last lap. He had won the race and was going around checkered flag, and he had a heart attack and ended up passing away. So like, that stuff happens quite a bit. And like Quint said, it's just the safety crews all around. Like, I always brag about our safety crews. Like, I've shown people flips and like how quickly they're already moving before the guys stopped flipping completely and stuff like that. And then, yeah, like driving a sprint car, especially with our methanol and stuff like that, it's definitely, you got to have that. You got to have that mental security that when you're out there, you are safe. And like, even, does Dustin work there anymore? But I remember when I did have a bad flip one time, like the wing was all tore and like he laid down in his fire suit and like I squished his face with my butt getting out of the car. You know what I mean? Just letting, like, yeah. So definitely the safety crews.
They go above and
thank
beyond.
God for them. Yeah.
The other great job done by safety crews and the entire team up at Sauble Speedway. John Peredzinski had a hard crash up there. The car had to be cut apart. I was talking to his wife today. So he was transported to a local hospital from Sauble and then airlifted to London, where they thought he was going to be released today and he may be sent home to do physio and recovery, but nerve damage. So having some mobility issues in his left arm from nerve damage from the impact. And he was wearing, like I said, I'm talking to his wife, containment seat, head and neck restraint, but they're looking at deep tissue issues in his lower back and that neck injury that's nerve. So not a spinal injury, but nerve injury that's limiting the movement in his left arm, but hopefully he'll be home and starting his recovery. And that is kudos to a safety crew that took their time, did what needed to be done. She said they cut every piece of equipment off of him. The fire suit, the shoes, everything but his socks were cut off of that driver in the process of getting him from the racetrack, getting him stabilized. And we hope that he can head home and they can start the healing process. And we'll give more updates as they come. As we say, we have no update on Steve McCaw as of yet, and we don't want to share speculation because truthfully, that's something we'll talk about another time too, that the power of social media and the damage that can do, the perils of social media, I suppose. But I think the other topics that we've got, SVG at Chicago, man, oh man. In closing, let's talk about SVG at Chicago in closing, because I think that's one of the coolest things to happen in motorsports, maybe in history. And Spencer, show the tweet that I sent if you've got it. And this is Denny Hamlin, and I never thought of this, but I'm assuming since Denny said it, it's true. He's used to driving with his left hand on the shifter, sitting on the right side of the race car. To come up here and say, like, that's completely backwards to what he's used to. And he went out there and beat the best in the world. And I think that's phenomenal. Clinton, your thoughts? Well, Clinton practices blue steel. Travis, give us your thoughts.
Yeah. So I thought I hadn't even heard of SVG until like the last V8 supercar guy I knew was Scott McLaughlin, and he moved up to IndyCar. So I just heard Friday night an interview with this guy on Sirius XM NASCAR. And so I was watching him during the race, and Billy Evans, literally on the way to the track Friday night, he's like, "Is there any road course ringers for the Chicago race?" I'm like, I don't think so. But there is this one guy, he might do okay. But yeah. But then coming to the end of the race, you knew he was going to win. That's when it got exciting.
I give Justin Haley credit for fighting him as hard as he did on older tires. Justin made some beautiful moves, did everything he could. He just got outgunned. So I think that's phenomenal for racing. I think it's an exciting story, and that's what this sport is all about. Travis, thank you so much for sitting in with us. And people need to understand how awkward hosting this podcast is because of the delay. Like it's not like a face-to-face conversation or announcing when we're standing beside each other. It's very challenging to work with people.
Yeah, our podcasting, we use Riverside FM, Southern Ontario Dirt Show, with my co-host Jonathan Howe. if you don't know that already. But anyway, yeah, our thing does the same kind of thing. So I'm kind of used to that. My number one thing is I'm not used to being on screen, so I had to like put a nice shirt on and wash my hair and stuff. That's the number one thing about your show for me.
Well, there you have it. If you're sitting next to me, you're looking pretty good. Thanks for joining us on behalf of Clinton, Geoffrey, Travis Cunningham, Spencer, myself. We will see you next Tuesday, and we wish everyone safe racing, have fun at the races, and please keep the drivers and the crews who work with those drivers, that's traumatic for them as well, in your thoughts, and we will see you at the racetrack.